All right. Welcome to a very janky version of the guides this week because I am away, but I have a gaming laptop now, and I brought my Camus wheel because it's really small and I can use those pedals and we'll figure it out together. Just kidding. I already did some practice here. It should be good to go. So we're doing Iowa here in the ARCA car. I'm just using default settings right now because that's how discombobulated I am. But if you want to use settings, I recommend whatever steering ratio, steering offset you're comfortable with, and then 60% brake bias is always going to help. I probably should have tuned that down a little bit before I put out here, but I don't use enough of it and for it to be that big of a deal. Should be a second lap, hot lap here. I'm just going to get my bearings here on the first lap, kind of show you the line. Gonna try to aim for this seam, but kind of not try to slide up too much. Gonna get pretty slick up there on the first lap, which is why I'm not pushing too hard. And 3 and 4, kind of try to get a really good run here. Full throttle really early, trying to get off the corner early.
23.818.
Gonna really try to stay on this seam, slip a little bit, but we can still kind of work ourselves off. You know what? We're gonna go for a third lap here. I give myself that because of the situation. It's not ideal. All right.
24.3.
Problem with that one was I did not use enough brake. I really wanted to just keep it down as long as possible. Kind of power through those bumps there. A lot better there. And then same top line here. Can dive a little bit deeper. And get back on the throttle, try to carry the speed. Maybe a little bit loose off the corner. This should be okay. Alright. Very good.
23.3.
So, fastest laps you're going to see are probably about a tenth quicker than that. But they should be doing the exact same thing that I'm doing, just with a little more feeling. That's kind of the limitations of having a lower end gear. You can kind of see. I'm sure that I could grind that for another hour and kind of get it close to there, but it's just more intuitive when you have those pedals that can provide the haptic feedback. And the wheel is fine, honestly. I'm using that Camus wheel. It's fine. All right. So all I'm doing to set up for the lap is just trying to get my car to turn down the hill. Once my car starts pointing down the hill, I just throttle it because you can kind of almost late apex the corner if you would, and that allows you to get the throttle really early. Okay, turn one here. I'm trying to align my left wheel with this seam right here. Drive right into it. You don't really want this slide up that I'm getting here. You really want it to land on the seam. But if you slide up a little bit, you can still power through it on a hot lap. On a race run, you don't want to do this at all. But on a hot lap, if you slide up a little bit, like I'm saying like a quarter lane here, you can just power through the bumps. If you end up like really any higher than this, like let's see, let me go into rear chase. You see how I'm like really straddling the top of this lane? The moment that your rear tire hops over this seam right here, you are subject to just some of the worst bumps of all time. So you really got to keep your car within this narrow lane right here in order to get a smooth enough ride running 1 and 2. And then the exit kind of drives itself if you're getting on the throttle at the right time. 3 and 4, same exact idea. Aligning my left tire with the seam right here. Missed it a little bit. 3 and 4 is a little more forgiving, where you can kind of be wherever you want and the car won't like go through bumps or anything like that. But I do find it ideal getting out of the throttle early enough to be all the way down on that seam. But it's really kind of negligible where you end up. But it's just my goal to end up on that seam. So again, I am holding brake around 10% until the car shifts its weight. How do you know it shifts its weight? It stops trying to slide up the track. The moment that it's kind of enters that peak of stopping to slide up the track, then you can kind of mash the gas at Iowa for full lap. Let's take a look at that one more time in slow motion. So roll off the gas, a little bit of a brake drag to get it to the seam. Probably not quite long enough. I want to keep it down there a little longer, but we can power through the throttle. And once the car starts coming back down the track, we can unload the wheel and go full throttle. All right. Before we go out there, I'm actually going to turn my brake bias down. You can see how I'm using like literally default steering ratio, steering offset. It just kind of goes to show you that Any steering ratio and offset, as long as you're comfortable with it, is completely fine. I'm just doing this because I have kind of like a limited range of motion, so I kind of like the high steer or the low steering ratio, or I guess that would be a high steering ratio. So the key to the long run here, it's going to be multi-group. I would not try to oversave your tires and give up track position because it's going to be a little bit tough on the long run to pass cars back because even though this is super multi-groove, what happens? I forget. It's very loose on the first lap. What happens is that this race really does end up going to the top, and once the race goes to the top, you can't really do slide jobs at Iowa, so it ends up actually becoming pretty single groove. So you got to save tires and try not to build too much of a disadvantage. I kind of like late apexing 1 and 2 here. A little loose there. And then 3 and 4, you can just kind of roll the bottom. Get a pretty similar time to what we've been running all the way down here. Maybe a little slower. But like you can run serviceable times. It's just that when people are really pushing, like you can very easily just push this seam right here, even though you go through some bumps. Like it's pretty darn good. And then you can definitely push 3 and 4. Like you can be right up by the wall 3 and 4, and it's completely fine, and you can push as hard as you want. So some people might be doing that. I think that in 1 and 2, you don't have to really run the top 1 and 2 as long as you're doing this kind of late apex line right here. Like, do you see how that was even faster? You can't really late apex 3 and 4. You just don't want to use too much steering wheel when you're late apexing. You have to induce the late apex with the brake, not the steering, in order to make that successful.
23.491.
So like early brake and then just kind of wait on it until the car goes down, and then you can drive all the way through the bottom. It gets a little loose there if you don't apex late enough, and then that's what happens when you do that. So it's a little bit of a balancing act. Like the more brake you can use and the less steering wheel you can use, the better it is on your tires. But if you kind of miss your timing a little bit, I'll try to do it better this time. You'll get that really big snap. So I'm going to just try to hold my brake and let the car drive to the bottom. I'll throttle through the bottom, and it's a pretty good corner. A little bit slow. Could be better, but that's kind of like the shape of it. The easiest answer to keeping your track position is always going to be run the top, but you can't really do that for too long without really abusing your stuff. This late apex line in 1 and 2 is kind of the pro line in a way. At least to my knowledge. I haven't done a race on this, but it feels the same as it did last time. At least what I can tell between like different setups and steering wheels and stuff. The car seems to behave the same to me. Alright, I'll do one more lap here. Just kind of show you what the top is like on a bit older tires. It's still very good. So, this could very well end up as like a drive the top race in 1 and 2. But you'd have to just be careful not to punch the throttle too much and try to use a little bit more of your right rear than your right front. Even though it feels like it hangs out now, it's going to get tight later because the entry, even if the exit feels loose, the entry will burn more stuff off than your entry. I accidentally spun there, so the tires are going to be a little worse than what they seem, but even tire wear, even with a little spin out at the end. So that kind of might even show that the right front was starting to go a little bit more. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you all on the track.